So good afternoon again. Let us start with the module number 2. The title of module number 2 is Initiating Projects. In this particular module, Initiating Project, as we know, this initiating projects is the first phase in the project life cycle. I hope you must be remembering the project phases for project life cycle. Can somebody tell me which are the phases? There are 5 phases. So can somebody just unmute and tell which are the 5 phases we have already seen in module number 1? Yes, anyone? Project phases. There are 5 phases. So clue is given to you. You can try. It may be correct. It may be wrong. We will correct your answer if it is deviating from the requirement. Yes, anyone? Tausalkar,
Yes, sir.
do you know which are the phases in project life cycle? Or somebody else? Ketan Adavade, Aniket Mane, Nikhil, anyone? Rajas. We have discussed in detail. You must be remembering there was a diagram where project life cycle versus the levels of interaction for the project phases, or we can say the project phases, or we can say project process groups. Instead of phases, I will say project process groups. Now, can somebody tell 5 process groups?
Hello, sir.
So
Yes.
imagine, define.
Sir,
No, no, no.
initiation,
Initiation,
planning,
planning,
execution,
execution, correct. Then monitoring and control,
yes,
and
And
finally
closing.
closing,
yes,
correct.
yes,
So now
yes,
the same things we have to see one by one. Okay. So first we have to go for the beginning of the project life cycle, and what comes at the beginning is nothing but the initiation of the project. So how to initiate the project, what care we should take, what things we should consider when we are going for initiation of the project, that we have to understand in this particular module. So the contents which have been given by the university syllabus, we may not limit ourselves only to the contents. Slightly we can have some additional material also, but these are the contents which have been given by the university, and they will be taken into consideration for teaching this particular module. So first is how to get a project started. So the initiation, how to start the project, selecting the project strategically, then project selection models. There are 2 types of models. One is numeric or scoring models, and second type is non-numeric or qualitative models. So non-numerical models, we have to just discuss the theoretical components. Numeric models, there are certain numeric models for which you have to understand what are the numeric models, and there will be certain numerical problems based upon the project selection models. So once we finish the theoretical components contents of this chapter, this module, immediately we'll switch to the numerical part for project selection models. So today only I have uploaded the lecture slides as well as the scanned notes for the numerical problems based upon this project selection model on your Google Classroom. So before we start, you can just go through the contents which have been provided on Google Classroom, so that it will be easier for you to understand the concepts. It will be easier for you to attend the lecture with your queries, your doubts, and it will be easier for you to understand the concepts in detail. The next part we have to say is about project portfolio process, then project sponsor and how to fulfill the project charter, then project proposal, effective project team, and the stages of team development and growth. So there are certain standard activities for team development and growth, which are forming, storming, norming, and performing. So how these activities are to be executed, and the concept of team dynamics. So this is all about the contents which have been prescribed by university for the module number 2, that is initiating projects. Now, before we go for the first part, that is how the project gets started, let us try to understand some concepts related to this initiating project or the starting of your project. So sometimes there are no organizations, like they will or there will be very few organizations which will be having only one project in hand at a time. Normally the organizations which are there in the market, they will be executing multiple projects parallelly, simultaneously. And when the organizations, they are handling multiple projects parallelly, there are certain issues. So what these issues are there, that we need to consider first, because those issues will be required to be considered when you are initiating the project, when you are starting with any new project. Okay, it becomes difficult for smaller projects to get adequate support or even the attention of senior management. Now, depending upon how to decide whether the project is smaller or the project is bigger, there are certain parameters. The project can be considered as smaller or bigger depending upon the number of people involved, depending upon the budget of your project, depending upon the schedule of your project, depending upon the resources required, depending upon the volume of work which is involved in the particular project. So likewise, based upon certain criteria, certain parameters, the projects we can classify as the projects are either smaller or the projects are bigger, or they are huge projects, we can say. Now, if a particular organization is handling multiple projects parallelly, and there are certain projects which are very huge, and there are certain projects which are very small in size, then it will be difficult for those small projects to get adequate support from the top management, senior management. Even the senior management may not pay attention to that smaller projects. So that becomes a difficult issue, a problematic situation for projects which are small in volume, small in size. So three common problems in organization trying to manage the multiple projects, they are: delay in one project cause delays in other projects because of the common resources needs or technological dependencies. So if your organization is executing multiple projects simultaneously, it may become that because of some issues, if one project get delayed, then the resources which are in use for that particular project may also be required by another project, because these resources, they are common. And if one project is getting delayed, those resources will get stuck up at that particular point, at that particular project, and they will not be available for another projects, they will not be available for the other projects which are going on parallelly. And initially the resource planning, when it was done, the resources have been considered to be shared, or there may be some technological dependencies between the projects. So because of all this, if one project is getting delayed, then some other projects from the same organization which are dependent on that delayed project will also have delay in their schedules. The insufficient use of corporate resources results in peaks and valleys in resource utilization. So sometimes the resources, if they are not managed properly, if there is no proper resource allocation, resource planning done for multiple projects, then it may happen that sometimes they are used to a very great extent, and sometimes they are simply in idle situation. So you will observe, if you go for the usage analysis of the resources available, so you may find that there are peaks and valleys. Sometimes they are 100% utilized, and sometimes they are simply kept idle, they are not utilized properly. So for this purpose, if you are going for multiple projects simultaneously, we need to go for the resource planning in advance, and we have to see that whatever resources we have, they should be utilized by the multiple projects in the most efficient manner. Bottlenecks in resource availability or lack of required technological input results in project delays that depend on those scarce technology of scarce resources or technology. So sometimes the organization may have some resource available, but that will be available in very small quantity, small amount, very few amount or quantity is available for the particular resource, and the demand for that resource may be high as far as the projects are concerned. Maybe the resource needs more financial investment, that's why it is not available in huge numbers. So in that particular case, and if there are multiple dependencies on that particular resource, let us say there is some machinery, and most of the projects they need that particular machinery, the cost of that machinery is very high, so you cannot go for having multiple units of that machinery in your organization. So what we prefer is the same machinery should be utilized by different projects by having proper planning, and then it will be effectively utilized. But if there are multiple processes which are dependent on the output generated by that machinery, then since it is not processing, it is not working for a particular project, there may be bottlenecks, there may be work in process inventory which will be as it is unless and until that particular resource is getting available for that particular project. So this may result in project delays which they are causing because of the limited amount of resources or a very particular technology which may be available with a very limited amount. The facts which are observed in research conducted for projects globally, so 30% of all the projects they are cancelled midstream, and over half of the completed projects came up in up to 190% over budget or 220% late. So you can see the statistics through the various surveys conducted globally, what they indicates, the projects whatever they are executed, whatever they are going on, out of the all projects, almost 30% projects they get cancelled midstream. So halfway they are executed, and after 40 to 50% of the completion, the organization comes, or they are aware about the situations, and because of some of the reasons the organizations are not continuing with the projects, even after they have been completed 40 to 50%. So you can just imagine, if of a project which is having crores of investment, if it is completed 30, 40, 50%, and then the project is cancelled, then you can see the amount of financial resources which get stuck up in that project, because there are no outcomes, and the investment, how to recover, that will be the biggest question. So this is not only about cancellation of the project in midstream. Over half of completed projects come up in 190% over budget. So you can see, whatever budget you are deciding, 190% the budget is exceeding, and 220% they are having delays. The schedule is, we say there are two terms, cost overrun and schedule overrun. So 190% cost overrun is found, and 220% projects we found that there is, or 220% there will be schedule overrun. So huge amount of cost gets increased, huge amount of or a large amount of period is again involved in completion of your project. The primary motivation of organization to improve and expand their project management processes was due to major troubled or failed projects, new upcoming mega projects, or to meet competition or maintain their market share. So why the people and the organizations, they need to improve and expand their project management processes or philosophies? It is all because of this failure statistics of the project. So because of the major troubled or failed projects, they may be coming up with new mega projects, or they wish to be in market, they wish to have their market share either as it is, or they wish to improve their market share, or they they wish to compete with their competitors and try to be in their market. So these are some of the facts which have been observed through the research. Have a proper project management philosophy right from the beginning, and when we want to have implement the standard project management philosophy right from the beginning of your project, and it should continue throughout the project life cycle, what we say is, we should establish this PMO. As far as the project domain, the projects are concerned, the PMO stands for Project Management Office. Nowadays, you must be hearing this word PMO multiple times through social media or through the print media, news channels. So in India, this PMO, it is now a buzzword because it is Prime Minister Office at the central government level. Earlier also there used to be office, but there was no this specific PMO word which is so popularized during this last 5 6 years. So we are not concerned with that Prime Minister Office. We are considering the projects, and when we are dealing with the projects, the PMO stands for Project Management Office. A major development to develop project management expertise in-house, particularly in organizations interested in using projects to accomplish organizational goals and strategies, is the initiation of Project Management Office. So why this Project Management Office should be initiated, should be established? It is all because to develop the project management expertise in-house. So sometimes you can go for appointing some consultants for project management and get their expertise for executing your project. But this kind of expertise you can get for a limited amount of time, or you are dependent on some people to give you the consultancy for this project management philosophies, project management processes, then why not to develop this expertise in house? So if you want to develop this project management expertise in house, we must have established the project management office in your organization for the particular project. Particularly the organizations which are interested in using projects to accomplish organizational goals and strategies, they are trying to establish this project management office. What this PMO works for, or what it does, this project management office, it strives to develop multi-project management expertise throughout the organization. So how to go for handling multiple projects at a time, so that expertise, multi-project management expertise, the PMO will try to develop throughout the organization to evaluate the interrelationship between the projects. So when we say evaluation of interrelationship between the projects, it is nothing but the resource requirement and skill requirement. So how we can go for planning the resources, and how the skills expertise of the available project team, available project team members, they can be utilized for multiple projects or interrelated projects, so that we can identify to ensure the projects are clearly related to the organizational goals. So we we are working for a particular organization. That organization has certain specific goals, certain specific objectives, certain expected outcomes for which the organization is working. So whatever projects we are undertaking, whatever projects we are going to execute in future, we have to cross check whether those projects, they are satisfying the requirements of our organizational goals. If we execute that project, whether the work involved in the project, whether the outcomes of the particular project, they are aligned with the organizational's goals, organizational's expected outcomes or not. And this will be ensured by this project management office. If you feel a particular project is not aligned with your organizational goals, then there is no point in investing your resources to conduct that particular, to execute that particular project. Whatever projects we are doing, they should be aligned with the organizational strategies, organizational goals, and the expected objectives and outcomes for your organization. This project management office is expected to promote those projects that capitalize on the organizational strengths, offer a competitive advantage, and mutually support each other, while avoiding those with resource or technology needs in areas where the organization has no desire for development. So this is all about what we are discussing. Whenever we are going for selection of the project, because that will be the most important part in the initiation phase, that which project, if multiple projects are in front of you and you are supposed to select the project, this project management office will help the organization to choose the right projects. And when we say right projects, we mean to say the projects we can capitalize on organizational strengths. So the PMO will have the SWOT analysis session with them. What are the strengths of the organization? What are the weakness of organization? What are the opportunities and what are the threats? Who are the competitors? So this all data will be available with the project management office. Whenever any new proposal comes for project, new project proposal comes, the project management office will check whether the project which is to be assessed, to be evaluated, is having the requirements aligned with the strengths of organization or not. If the project is requiring something which is under the weaknesses heads of your organization, then we cannot execute that project. So whatever is your organization strength, whether the project is utilizing that strength or not, that we should check. Whether the project will be offering any competitive advantage over your competitors. So if you execute the project, what your competitors are doing, whether they are doing the similar kind of projects, and if you do this particular project, whether you will have any competitive advantage over those competitors, that also needs to be checked. And third thing is checking whatever projects they are already in progress, whether this new project will be having mutual support with each other, the existing projects or not. So these all things we have to take into account. And what we have to avoid those projects which require certain resources or technology in certain areas where the organization is no desire to develop. So if there is any organization who is working in a particular sector and a certain projects come in as a proposal to them, which requires altogether some different technology, different resources, and different area of expertise, where in future you are not interested to work. So there is no point in that particular project. So we have to check the strengths of your organization, the goals of your organization, the future plan of your organization, and the projects which have come to you, they are matching or not, and we have to select them properly. Some challenges which are faced by organizations: how to make sure that projects are closely tied to the organizational goals and strategies. So that is one of the challenge we have to make sure. So which method should be implemented, which method should be applied to ensure that whatever projects you are going to consider, they are closely tied with the organizational goals and strategies or not. Second challenge is how to handle the growing number of ongoing projects. So that is another challenge. How to manage the resources effectively, how to go for reducing the idle time for the resources, how to make best use of the resources, how to manage the people, how to manage the finance, and how to manage the delays and risks in the multiple projects whatever you are handling parallelly, and how to handle that mental pressure to have the multiple projects going on simultaneously. So that is another challenge faced by organization, that how to handle growing number of ongoing projects. And third part is third challenge, it is how to make these projects more successful. So if the projects, they are closely tied with organizational goals and strategies that have been ensured, you have done maximum groundwork to handle the multiple projects simultaneously, still there is a question. The projects are going on, the projects are closely tied to the organizational goals and strategies, but we have to also ensure that this project should be successful. These projects should not be a failure. So what measures, what strategies, what action plan we need to chalk out for making the project successful? That is another challenge faced by organizations. So these are some of the challenges which are faced by the organizations. Then project management maturity. So this is the next part what we have to see after consideration of the PMO. So project management maturity, normally it is abbreviated as PMM. It is nothing but the development of project and multi-project management expertise. So once you have your project management office in place, you are able to execute multiple projects simultaneously, you have executed many projects successfully, then we can say that you have got this project management maturity, which is nothing but the ability of your organization or ability of your project management office to have the project and multi-project management expertise among you. So now you are able to execute the project successfully, and not only single project, but you have mastered yourself to manage the multiple projects in most efficient manner. So once you can do it, we can say you have reached to the project management maturity stage. A major aspect of multi-project management is selecting projects for implementation and handling with the uncertainty risk involved. So the most important part to achieve this project management maturity is we should be expertise in this multi-project management. And when we say about the multi-project management, the major part for major concern for multi-project management is selecting the projects for implementation and how to handle the uncertainty and risk involved. So these are some of the issues which we need to take into account when we are going for this initiation part of your project or initiating the projects.